Boys is getting quiet. Go on and get crunk. Head back to Longview, Kelly popping trunk. I ain't even tripping. Riding and I'm sipping. Let me come through, 4-4, steady tipping. On that new lap. Watch the trunk crack. Let me sit sideways, CB running back. Maybe AP, maybe AD. I ain't even tripping cause we some athletes. Messing with Smitty in the summertime. He get pissed if we don't make our time. But we gon' get it, cause we gotta finish. Nebraska Horn Hustlers, man, we diminished. Put them boys little, paint like a skittle. I ain't even tripping, I ain't never double dribble. Cause I'm a player from the Himalaya. Let me sit sideways, man. Maybe back door, maybe fall off. Sipping codeine cause I gotta kill a cough. Let me sit sideways in the big Benz. Oh, you boys, they my brothers, they my friends.
All right. Welcome into Fullback U, and blessed to have my brother on. I believe it's his third time, but a third time's a charm for sure because I'm going to just get right to the point. There's nobody that cares more about their black teammates than my man, Trent Ratterree. How you feeling, Trent?
Hey, man, I'm pretty good. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No problem. I'm glad to have you on, man. Like I said, I mean, people can just see from your tweets. I mean, Trent, I know how you are. You can't just sit back and watch or sit quiet, and that's one thing that I truly appreciate and admire about you. Not to mention that you speak it from an educated standpoint. Let's go into that. Where did you get your views of equality from? How about that?
Well, I mean, honestly, when I got to OU and I knew I wanted to play football, I didn't know what I wanted to study. And so I started thinking about the things that interest me. And I did some zoology. I did some religious studies, and I really wanted to study race and really dig into the history of that here in the United States, and also learn it from a perspective that is outside of my own. And so I think when I came to school, and got into, and we actually were in one of those classes together. I think the important thing for me was that I knew I didn't know what was going on because I was not experiencing it. And I knew Black folks and people of color were having different experiences than I was having. And I really wanted to dig into that and figure out and educate myself, on that. And so I think a lot of it honestly came through my classes that I took in the AFAM department at OU.
I remember that class too, very, very vividly. It was back when Tiger Woods got in trouble. For a lot of people that don't know. I went back to get my degree, and it was when you guys were finishing up. Really proud of you guys, me, you, Jazz Reynolds, who was in there, Casey, Walker, Big Tavares.
Mm-hmm.
Just so funny just going back and seeing all that stuff. But again, for a lot of people who didn't know, from me, Trent, it was a matter of when I moved from the East Side, I didn't see a lot of my Black family. I moved over into Midwest City, and it was a little different, but there were still some similarities to that. But the most eye-opening thing to me, Rat, and you probably heard me in that class, was when I moved to Chicago, and we went and go do these school speakings. And you go to a suburb in Chicago, man, and it's nice, and everybody's laid out, and you don't think autographs are plenty, and nice kids there, not many kids of color, that whole deal. You go to the South Side, and again, I tweeted about it the other day, Trent, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. But the phrase "cumulative disadvantage" was just what I thought of. You see no businesses, you see no hope, you see drug dealing, you see gang violence, it's the norm. And to me, Chicago's an old city, so this just didn't happen overnight, and it just clicks into my mind. Wow, this is a large scale view of what is going on to the Black community. Just, if you can, just talk about why your teammates mean so much to you, Trent. Why? Let's be real. You could go on with your white life, Trent. You don't have to worry about these things. You don't have to dive your head into these things head first. Why would you do that?
Well, I mean, like you said, JD, I mean, I think a lot of white folks could do that. And that is the definition of white privilege right there, right? Is that you don't have to confront these things. And that's what I think, and I'll get to the answer here pretty quick, but that's what Cap kneeling was all about. It was because, you know, professional sports, specifically the NFL, has a very large white viewership. And I think him kneeling was a brilliant protest because it made people think outside of their own perspective.
White people would have never thought of that. Would have never brought it up. Never that. I'm with you. I'm right there with you. There was a lot of people that brought up the NFL period. Trent, that's a great point. That wouldn't have brought it up like that. They got passionate about it too. About it. So go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, it made the NFL have to look inward and confront a lot of the ugliness happening there too. But yeah, I mean, you know, as teammates in sports, you know, we're brothers. We have to depend on each other. We all have our job to do, and if you don't do it, you're out. And so the people that you can depend on, that builds a really strong interpersonal relationship. And I think at my time at OU, and also before that, playing AAU basketball was really a formative time for me because it brought me out of Weatherford into the city. And we would travel to Vegas and Orlando and, you know, San Antonio and some of these places, and we'd play tournaments. And, you know, and we would get out, we'd walk the streets, or, you know, I mean, you know, we'd go get something to eat, or, you know, and I think there was just a lot of difference in experience. Like, I was ready to go, you know, it's like, yeah, let's walk down there. But not everyone, you know, some folks were a little more hesitant. And I think that drew an early distinction in my mind of, okay, basically the two Americas. It's like we're living in two different Americas here. And I think as far as, you know, in my time at OU, I mean, there were incidences with police. There were people who were treated unfairly, put in handcuffs for no reason, for parking tickets, you know, I mean, and I don't want to get into too many specifics there because those aren't my stories to tell, but I just want to highlight though that these things have been happening for a really long time, and not everyone has had to confront them. And now, you know, people in a large way disgraced Cap for what he was doing. The NFL, you know, whiteballed him, basically left him out. I like it. And so I think that now people, you know, the movement wasn't listened to, wasn't heard with those small steps such as kneeling and things like that. And I think now people are even more frustrated because it continues to happen. It's not slowing down. And they want to be heard, and they want to see things change. They don't want the lip service. And so I think it's a good time for leaders of institutions, whether it's public or private, leaders who are elected or not. I think it's a big time for folks to step up in those positions and show, not just with their words, but with their actions, that they support the people in their community, the people they largely depend on for a lot of the labor that's carried out in, whether it's in athletic leagues or just in the workforce.
Man, that's real, brother. I'm going to ask you some hard questions, brother, because you're the guy to answer them, Trent. You're the guy to tell people, because when I tell them, it's a little bit different. You know, I'm a half white guy, but I'm still classified as a brother. I get it. But what I also don't get is, and this we can get into, you know, part of my decision to leave the sports animal was when we first started talking about Kaepernick and things like that, everybody was against it. They're selling ads against it. They're talking about we don't kneel, we stand. And here's one. Nobody said Black Lives Matter on there. Because again, I'm guessing, just how I can guess on Twitter, whenever Lincoln Riley tweets Black Lives Matter, 70% of them are going to be negative and all lives matter. 60% probably, I don't know, somewhere around there. Now, I thank the white people, Trent, that have been able to just say that, to write it on their car, to protest with us. I'm so thankful. What does it take to get the other crowd to not regurgitate all lives matter before they even think what we're saying? What does it take to get them to open their mind? Are we wasting our time?
Well, I mean, to effectively get a message out there and to effectively get people to change. I mean, I think in my past as an organizer, the way that you get people to change is to get them in one-on-one conversations, i.e. door knocking, right? But in this case, the most effective messengers to these folks the All Lives Matter folks that come in on the comments and I've read them too, and they're vicious and ugly, is that it takes us white folks talking to our uncle, talking to our dad, talking to our grandfather. We have to have those conversations. That is part of doing the work. And if we are not doing that, no one else is going to talk to them that they would listen to or trust or whatever the thing is. No one else has the power to convince or to educate their family members, such as, as another family member. And so I think as far as, the white folks who are listening, I think that's the big thing. And if you don't understand, but you have a family member that that you've seen posting and is supportive, reach out to them and have that conversation, but have it in a genuine way. Don't call them to attack them, call them to listen to them, because ultimately what the movement is about is equality. It's making sure everyone has a fair shake. Everyone's treated fairly. Everyone's treated well, and that people aren't being gunned down in the streets or hunted. And so I think the number one thing I can say to that is that in order if you have family members who are in that crowd that are making those posts, you have, and you don't agree with them, you have to reach out and you have to have those conversations. We owe it to our community and we owe it to our Black brothers and sisters.
Real. Man, I'll never forget I was in love, dog. 9th grade. I was in love, Rat. She wrote me a note. Said, I can't date you because my dad said because you're Black. I'm sure you've heard that story a million times. I'm sure you've been around why you said grandpas and uncles and things like that. I've been around them. They just dropped the N-word. Well, don't worry. That's my uncle. They just a different time. It's like, no, man, this is the time where we address those things before he says that online and it goes viral. And now we're Karening with your grandma or something like that. And just all those things. Rat, speaking of, let's just talk about that. There's another shooting in Atlanta last night, police shooting. I believe the guy's name is Rashard Brooks or something like that. The TMZ video is gruesome. It shows the police trying to arrest him. They try to tase him. He gets up, runs off. They shoot him in the back as he's running off. I firmly believe, Rat. I believe, unfortunately, that we shouldn't, and I'm sure you're the same way, but we shouldn't need videos to get justice and things like that. But unfortunately, the time that we're living in, and I think what we're seeing is the only chance that we do stand to justice is having a video. With that, Rat, I want to say I'm so proud, not just of you, but of the culmination of people in Oklahoma that have been able to peacefully and to get points across. What do we do in the meantime, Rat? Because it's not changing. It's unfortunate. And I thank you so much for caring, and I thank you so much for having this conversation, because I could not imagine for some of our teammates how traumatic this shit is on a day-to-day basis, dog. I'm trying to study for my math certification, and I keep thinking of this dude. Damn, shit, he's trying to run away. Why didn't they just let him run away? Why don't they just let him run away? You know who he is. I mean, you can go get him. Y'all can chase him down. He should be here today, Rat. But in the meantime, because you've been in the process, what do we do in the meantime while we continue to protest, while we continue to make things right?
I mean, some of the conversations I've had lately, I think there's two things. I think, there's actually more than two things. I think that the protests need to continue until change is made. I mean, I was a part of the 2018 teacher walkout, right? And so, I mean, I'm familiar with some, mass organizing and movements like this, and it's not quite the same. But I think that often you see leaders who don't agree with your movement try to squash it from the get-go, try to say that it's not achieving what it's supposed to, that there's troublemakers in the crowd, that there's violence. There's a lot. It's like there's a playbook that people continually go back to. And I think that these protests are so important, especially in Oklahoma City. I think they've been the epitome of getting, like you said, getting the point across while showing solidarity. And so I think that, the action needs to continue. I think also when you have this many people who are feeling so strongly about the same issue, I think that it's a good opportunity to get people, make sure their voter registration is up to date, make sure they are registered to vote, make sure they know when to vote, and make sure they know who the folks are they can vote for that actually support them, that don't just stand there in election time and say, I'm for you, and I think that people can show their support by a lot of ways. And I think one thing, is that oftentimes some elected folks show up only when it comes time for the elections. And I think that that's something for candidates who are running for office to consider, is that if you're not showing up all the time, then it doesn't really count if you only show up this time. And so, but I think I feel really strongly about making sure we're getting people educated on the voting process, how to register. Also, considering we still do have a pandemic going on, which is why we're doing this digitally. Right. Make sure people understand how to absentee vote or vote by mail is another way to put it. And so luckily, and I'm going to put a little plug, luckily the Oklahoma State Election Board opened up a digital portal on their website. Hey. So it's a lot easier than it used to be. And so you can go on, make sure your registration's up to date. And I don't quote me on this. I think you can request an absentee ballot online, but I think those are really important things to make sure that this movement goes into the elections. Because I think, a lot of positions that have say over these things that are happening, DAs are elected officials. And I want to make sure that that's understood. County commissioners are elected officials. Sheriffs are elected officials. And these folks have a lot of impact locally and very directly on your life. And I think that that's really important to know, because I think a lot of time DA's races and sheriff's races get kind of overlooked. And so I would say for people who are protesting and feel very strongly about this and want action, I think you need to take a look at your DA and see what their record is. I think you need to take a look at your sheriff, see what their record is, and then look at the numbers that are coming out, showing police use of force, and match those two things together. And if they don't align with the way you feel things need to go, you need to get your friends and you need to get out there and make sure that a better DA gets in the office, or a better sheriff, because things won't change unless we take action.
No, real. I want to get your thoughts on that action. Say you're at OU again. I'm sure you saw the University of Texas players that made the list of demands of what they want: statues removed, statues renamed, new statues up with people of color, having some form of advice on that. Just talk to me about what would Ratterree do if he was at OU? Are you the Chance Sylvie type that's coming through with policy? Are you trying to, you mentioned getting people together to vote. Are you going to sit out? Are you talking to the guys about, putting something together, pregame? What do you, let me know.
I think for me, because this movement, I wouldn't want to put myself in a position to co-opt it. And so I think I would encourage and support, and any knowledge I have, and this stands for now, not even what I would do if I was a player. This is what I would do now. And just support and make sure that that the leadership on the team, the Black leadership on the team, is at the forefront, and that their message is the one getting across. And I think that what I would like to do, I would provide the information if needed. I would help and support. But I mean, I think ultimately, as a white male, I think ultimately it's not my place to be out front, but it's my place to help and support however I can, because I do feel strongly about it and I do want it to succeed. And actually, I mean, I've talked with some folks at OU now, talking loosely about, just voter registration awareness, very general stuff. And so I think that's one thing I'm really proud of Coach Riley and the football team about, is that they have really great leaders in those meeting rooms. And I think Coach Riley has taken a very, very strong point of leadership, even with the pandemic and now this. I think the players feel supported, and it's just a matter of getting folks organized and doing, getting messages synchronized and making sure that things are happening the most effective way.
Real. But
yeah, like I said, I mean, that's what I would do if I were a player. That's what I would do now. I mean, I'm here to help, and I feel very strongly that this action needs to continue. Otherwise, because ultimately, I mean, we do elect our officials by democracy. And so if we don't vote, if all we do, I mean, voting has to be a part of everything we do.
I love it. That's awesome, man. I want to get your thoughts on what's Oklahoma City. You've been a lot of places. Again, you've been in this field. You can comment on what you're doing now. As far as I'm proud of your decision that we talked about off air. But I want to know how Oklahoma City is similar to other cities and how they're different. What do we go through? I've heard that we're high along with Tulsa in cop killings. That we're way up there. I would imagine. I've also heard that we incarcerate a ton of women for things that I don't even want to start going in on that conversation, because it's just so sad. What are we initially, Trent? What do we look like from the outside in, and then are we just, are we looking like some other cities, or are we just sticking our thumb out, and not in a good way? Let me know.
Well, I mean, I think it comes in two parts. I think from a government perspective, I think that we have a history of over criminalizing, specifically people of color, women of color. I mean, and pretty much that, yeah, you nailed that. I think one thing I think that's important to discuss in this realm is that Oklahoma City has a very rich civil rights history. I mean, with Clara Luper, a lot of people don't know, the first sit-ins in the country happened right here. And they were done by high school kids, by the youth council of the NAACP, led by Clara Luper, their teacher. So I think, and I mean, and there's many other stories. We also have the history of our black towns,
Boley,
Boley, yeah.
Langston, all those,
yeah, Dungy, and Spencer, and out, and so I think to consider, I think that this has been a long time coming in Oklahoma, and I think we have a unique, somewhat of a unique advantage here, because we have this history, and the unique advantage we have, or the opportunity we have, is to address it finally. And I think I see really good people who are in the leadership of this movement, and I think that it couldn't be in better hands. We have a lot of folks in our community that do work, even behind the scenes, that a lot of people don't get to see, but it makes a real big difference, especially with when it comes to our incarceration rates. And because once these folks get out of jail, or they get out of prison, it's really hard for them to find resources, or to find a job, or to, and there's a lot of folks out there, OU alumni, who help who help with that to support those people. And so, I mean, what we need here from a legislative standpoint, I would say, I mean, the criminal code needs to be looked at. I mean, I can't name off specific proposals, but I would say, I mean, something we're doing isn't right because we're incarcerating women at the highest level in the world, and that's women in general. And then if you go down demographically, women of color, men of color, we're incarcerating almost every demographic and each group at the highest level in the world, not just in the United States.
Damn.
So I think something we're doing isn't working for all of us. I think whoever put it in place, I think it may be working for them, but I think it definitely needs to change because especially now that, I mean, we're a state that, marijuana is medicine. And so it's medically legal. And so, but you have people sitting in a jail cell or a prison cell who
we're just selling it at a convenience, not even, not crazy amounts or, got 10, 12, 15 years.
Right. And they were selling it 6 months too early. Right. So, I mean, I think that, and some of the commutation, the commuting of sentences and, some of that's been positive. And I think that, we have some really good folks on the parole board now who are people first and they're people focused. And so I think we're seeing some slight changes, but I mean, there's just, it's such an overwhelming institution and it's been in place. It's been set in place on purpose, at one point in time, and it's been there for so long. It's going to take an overwhelming effort to change it. But I think people are waking up to it. I think I've seen folks that were skeptical, and I think before and now I think the protests and the messaging that's getting out there, I think is kind of bringing people, more and more people on board. And so I wish to see that continue, but
absolutely.
It's a long road. But I mean, again, the people who make the laws, we elect them. So, I mean, it all kind of comes back to civic engagement and making sure that we're having those one-on-ones, those personal conversations. And because that's ultimately what changes people's minds the most.
Yeah. So I got it. I'm going to go vote. I'm going to make my friends vote. I'm going to talk to my kids. As soon as they're out of school, they're going to vote. I'm going to call both my grandmas, make them vote. What else can I do, Rat? Finish this off. It's been a great pod. What else can I do? Let me know. Do I need to, you got to vote 2020 tattoo? I mean, what do I need to do? Stand on the street corner. I know I've done some regrettable things in my life, but just let me know what I need to do to make that next step for equality.
Well, I wouldn't get the 2020 tattoo because it'll be obsolete here in about a year. But
good point.
But no, I mean, and I think once you've done all that, once you've found the candidates or the incumbents, the currently elected officials that you support them. That comes in ways of donations. I think volunteering looks different now, obviously, with the pandemic and social distancing. But I think, just reaching out and saying, letting them know of your support, vetting, and first, obviously, vetting them to make sure, that
how they gonna vote. This is my
support.
issue. This is how I feel
Right.
on this. I want to know. Meet me halfway on that. Gotcha.
Right. And but I mean, I was going somewhere, but I lost my
I'm sorry. I apologize about it.
It's okay.
That's my fault.
No, it's okay. But yeah, I mean, I think civic engagement's important. I think having the conversations with our friends and encouraging them to vote is extremely important. I think and this goes for, I think a lot of the white folks out there that are listening, having those, not avoiding your racist auntie or your racist uncle is a big part of this. That is part of our part of our work. We have to have those conversations because, you know, watching MSNBC and, you know, or watching CNN and hearing it from Van Jones isn't going to be the same as hearing it from
Laura
your
Ingraham.
family member. Right. Well, and that's going to be the other one. So, yeah. So I think changing minds happens with a one-on-one conversation, especially when it's your family. And then the last part, I think, is for those who feel very strongly about this and they want to be the change, run for office, give it a shot.
I love
because
it.
We do need more women elected. We need more women of color. We need more people of color, period. And so I think run for office, throw your hat in the ring, get out there, talk to your neighbors, see if you have support, and go from there. I think, you know, elections are supposed to be competitive. And I think us as athletes, we get that because we had to go out and compete. They didn't give you the position
at all.
Right. You had to compete for it. And I think that's how elections should be too. You should have to compete if you want that position. And so I think having a broader pool of candidates obviously is going to strengthen. I think maybe not obviously, but I think it's going to strengthen elections and make them more competitive. And so that's a plug there that I think, I mean, a lot of people who are now elected or are doing things on a bigger level, they never thought it would be them, but then they did it and it worked out. And so I think that's something I've always tried to encourage people too, is it's like, once you've done everything you think you can do and you want to do more, maybe that's the answer. So.
Yeah. Well, hey, yeah, I'm going to be 36 in a week, bro. So that means I can run for office. I need you to handle my slander ads like a fullback would. You know what I'm saying?
Let me know.
I got you, bro. You know what I mean? You just let me know what you want passed. You know, I got you, Rat. You know, come through, see me at the White House, fam. Bring your fam. You know, hopefully I can get my son off Roblox. He gonna have the most lit theater room in the White House to play Roblox on. He'll be so happy. No, but man, this is gonna be an awesome pod, bro. I thank you, brother, and again, man, just much love to you, Rat, because you do things that people don't have to do, and it's something that it'll pay off for you in the long run, man. And you don't hear that enough that you're appreciated, but from our Facebook group to Twitter to our pod to there's a lot, man. You're thought very, very highly of, dog. And again, it's something that there's a lot of people that wouldn't do it and that don't do it. So shout out to you, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you having me on again for the third. I think you're right. Third time is the charm.
Yes, sir.
And, but yeah, ultimately, I think it's not if it works out for me. I think the thing I really care the most about is seeing this change and trying to be and support as much as I can and push it forward as much as I can, because ultimately, I mean, it's all, that's what it should be all about, is helping people and changing lives for the better, I think.
Real.
And obviously keeping lives around too.
Absolutely, man. If the shoe was on the other foot, you know, I'd be all in for you guys too. So I just appreciate you diving in full. You know, you've taken on so many issues that weren't your own, like they were your own, brother. So you just keep on. Yeah. Appreciate you.
It's all love, brother.
Yes, sir. All love. I'll talk to you soon, Rat.
All right, man. Thank you.
Fullback you.